Hi, 230 honor students. This is a video with me going over your data. So you ended up having 28 participants, which isn't a big number, so we'll have to see what we can do with the different groupings. So I took your data, I put it into Excel. I actually ended up creating the cell score or the scale scores for your acute college stress survey scale. If you had read the article that was linked in the annotated bibliography and I shared it with you when you're trying to figure out your survey, it has two factors. It has a social factor and a non-social factor. And so the social factor included social life, recreation activities, relationship with classmates, relationship with your professor, and then the non-social included time management, financial problems, transportation problems, relationship with family. So family was put in as the non-social. And then work outside of school and schoolwork. So those were the measures, and you can see from the, so each one of those is the items. You also had your sleep quality and sleep hours. And so these are your two measures for social and non-social. And then this is kind of some of the demographics. And so we'll look at those counts and see what we can do with those. All of the items, I went ahead and changed the level of measurements if there was some error in converting it into Jamovi. So they're all appropriately identified in terms of nominal ordinal interval ratio, or ratio, interval and ratio being the continuous marker in Jamovi. So we're going to go ahead and go into exploration. We're just going to kind of see what we have. So I'm first going to look at your demographics. The nice thing is, even if we have some stuff that we can look at, if you have any, I've got to change the scale scores. I missed that one. If we have any challenges with our data not being normal within Jamovi, we are able to run some or some alternatives like we have in 231. All right, so you are going to get a copy of this as well as the Excel file, and this being the output and the Jamovi file. There's additional things that you wanted to look at. So you had some missing data from people, and that's understandable. So you do not have very many part-time people, so we're not going to be able to compare any differences between part-time and full-time. For this table, we're going to have to clean it up to do some different categorizing. And if you were going to put this information in your poster, someone would need to go through and clean this up. And so that you'd have one row for athlete, one row for employed elsewhere, one row for employed at Chandler Gilbert, one row for honor student. And then you can make a note that people could identify as more than one category. So it looks, I'm trying to look if we've got enough athletes. We've got 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So you have 13 athletes. So that's something that we could go through and do. Honors, 5, 6, 11. Okay, you've got 11 honors. And then employed elsewhere, we've got 2, 5, 6, 11, 18. I just was kind of counting through those. Okay, so we might want to explore creating some variables. So an honors category, yes or no. An athlete category, yes or no. Employed elsewhere, yes or no. Wait at Chandler Gilbert, you have just one, so that wouldn't be a category that we could explore. Again, this frequency is going to be off, so you'd have to redo that again for your poster, so it looks nice and clean. I went through and that's the same table. asynchronous class, half and half, so we could look at that. Unfortunately, gender, you do not have enough males for us to really do any, I should say, biological sex comparisons. Oh, wait. So I'm going to go ahead and now just go through this. Actually might all be good. Oh, I was going to change this, move that to our data. This one to our data. All right, so this one, they're all duplicates because it was that check your own box, and so the way Google had done it was through and nominated people. So I think I'm going to leave this one as a full student. Students, I'm just going to say variable. It's a mix of everyone. And then I'm having challenges with the recording being in the way of the boxes. This one, oops. It's not going to be oh, because I picked compute. Oops, didn't want to compute variable. Not computing anything, just adding it. Be student athlete, and then this one's just going to be employed elsewhere. Okay, so then employed elsewhere, what I'm going to be looking for is, I guess we'll follow along this one. If it said employed elsewhere in my student variable category, I am going to look at it. Now, I could do some sort of recategorizing if then within Jamovi, but just there isn't too much data, so I'm just going to work through this. Yes, okay. Athlete. So again, I'm looking at that bar column, seeing if they say athlete. I'm going to do the last column for honors. Okay, now that we've got those different categories, we can play around with some data. Before we do that, we'll go ahead and do our explore one more time and just look at some of your variables. Acute college stress scale. look at GPA, sleep hours. Do skewness and kurtosis. We'll also do this Shapiro-Wilk. So, did I pull? Oh yeah, I did pull. Some of that stuff that we just pulled in our first descriptives run would be information that would go into the participant section for your poster. For now, I'm just getting a general before we start looking at group differences, just generally what are we seeing? So your means for the different ones are here, and your medians and modes are here. People didn't have any stress with social. Standard deviations are here. Those are going to be good to report. Skewness and kurtosis are looking all right. And Shapiro-Wilk, we do not want it significant. Ooh, we have significance for GPA. Oh, I know what I should have us do. Do a quick. Again, this is kind of redundant for a box plot or a histogram, but it'll kind of have you see what's going on with the data. This isn't anything you'd put in your poster. Social was okay, even though you've got a little bit of a positive skew. And non-social was okay. GPA was not, so you just at that higher end of the distribution might be getting to us for that normal distribution. And then sleep quality was okay. Sleep hours was okay. That just shows you got an outlier. Oh wait. Looks good. So it's just GPA. Anytime we do anything with GPA, I'll have to do alternative analysis because it's showing from the Shapiro-Wilk that it wasn't a normal distribution. Okay, so now let's go ahead and we can just look at some, regardless of different demographics. Sorry, my recording button again is getting in the way. Pressing my analyses, still in the way, pressing my analyses. Try to move it up here. Okay, yay. We'll do a quick correlation. Where's sleep quality? We can just put them all, actually, we're just going to put them all in, and we're going to do a Spearman. You'll learn about this more in a little bit when we get to, oh, you also had the hours. Oh, I needed to check those. I'll go back and check those. We can run a Spearman. And so a Spearman is something you use when you have a small sample size or you have a little bit volatile data and our GPA has a little bit of issue and your sample size isn't very big. So Spearman is the way it's gonna be. So I'm gonna close that out. Before I get to looking at that, I just want to add your two other variables that you guys had asked about. Hours of work, schoolwork. Because I need to shorten those variable names. Work. So we see these. Okay, and those have issues with their distribution as well. The Shapiro-Wilk. Okay, and so I'm going to do that. So going to make those a tiny bit shorter variable names, make it a little easier for us looking at the data. Little better. All right, let's go through now and look at so those two, if you play around and do any analyses with those, we'll need the alternative for those as well. So I had significant correlations flagged. This is a correlation matrix. And so you kind of do need to see, oops, you need to see both this key and this key because it's these two things. So it ignores and doesn't correlate the same measure with itself because it would be 1 because it's the same data. So that's why you see this kind of diagonal dash. So hours of sleep and quality of sleep correlated, significant. That makes sense. They're just two different ways of looking at sleep. We're seeing sleep quality is not correlated with stress for social or non-social. It's not correlated with GPA. It's not correlated with work hours. It's not correlated with in-class school. For any of these, you can also calculate an R-squared. That's going to be the effect size for correlation. It's literally R times R, so that's something you can calculate yourself, even if Jamovi didn't give that to us. We're seeing hours of sleep is also not correlated with anything else. We are seeing our two stress scales are correlated. So non-social stress and social stress are correlated. Working 7 days hours is negatively correlated with stress for social. That makes sense. When you work more, you have less time for your friends, social aspects. And then amount of school is correlated positively with non-social stress. So people who are having, I think this was how many hours of schoolwork do you have outside of class time? So people who are doing more work in class time or doing more work outside of class they are also having more or higher non-social stress. So non-social stress being time management, makes sense, work outside of school, family stress, transportation problems. Oh, for any of these individual items, if you were interested in one item from the scale, you could go in and do a test just on that item. And you'd say, just for this one item, I was interested in. So if you were interested in specifically in time management or specifically for financial problems, those are all things that you could go through and report. In fact, that might be a nice thing for us to do for our poster. But before I jump to that, let me finish this. So we've got work 7 days. Okay, we did that one. All right, and then these are not significant. So this is your p-value. So you always want to look for p less than 0.05. So this one is approaching. That might be worth sharing. GPA related to sleep quality. It's approaching. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and run another descriptive. And just the individual items for the acute stress scale. And this is something you could do a table that just kind of shares, because there might be people who are looking at your poster that are like, oh, this is interesting. Well, which one did they have the most stress about? Do this, and then worry about doing any plots with them. But let's just going to have us do the basics with the okay. Just giving us You wouldn't have to do this, but I don't know what's going on. Get stuff and I'm putting into. Something's going on with my Jamovi today. Right, hopefully I've got all of them. If I did not, you are all capable of doing the same thing once I give you that Jamovi file. And so a higher score is more frequent stress. Oops. Wait. So again, if it's close to 0, 0 would be no stress. It's showing. See if all of these are 1. That's very low. Oh, but you do have large standard deviations, which means people are all over the place. So financial problems was higher, time management was higher, schoolwork was higher, family was lower. Okay. Now let's do some t-tests. Some of those group comparisons. Again, we're going to have to do, because we have non-normal data, a small sample size, I think we have to do the Mann-Whitney. Okay, so we are on to our last analyses for honors students. And it looks like there is significance with sleep quality and sleep hours. So those two were significant. You are reporting significance. Again, I did do Cohen's D, where we've got a different one for the Mann-Whitney. It looks like honor students are sleeping more and having higher sleep quality. There's the graphs. I wasn't sure I had GPA for the correlation, so I was going to go ahead and add that. Zoom in there, see if I can find it. We did have it. All right, so these are your analyses. I'll send all these files over to you. Have a great week.